And it was sort of, because it was so last minute, so let's just use the video. So anyway. All right, so we're talking about sloth, and now we're moving on to envy. And we really need to work with envy, sisters. Envy is not a bad thing. Envy is uncomfortable. Envy is like having a rock in your shoe. It makes you do shit. And one of the things I'm finding with so much of the big pharma is it's like the patriarchy is telling you being uncomfortable is a sin. Yeah, it's like, and you are entitled to a comfortable life. Well, Viktor Frankl, who I was quoting last night, he said that life offers everyone meaning and purpose. Offers. You gotta go get it. You gotta reach out for it. But life offers everybody meaning and purpose. It does not owe you comfort, or even happiness, or even fulfillment. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when I read that, I felt relief. That pursuit of happiness is relentless, and it is one of the things that is destroying the planet. So I recommend that you look at your synaptic tracts, which may be heavily laid down in the direction of being comfortable, and you consider some serious rerouting to meaning and purpose. And like Viktor Frankl said, when he was in knockout, he was noticing who survived and who didn't. And it was people who felt their life had meaning and purpose. That will save your life, sisters. And I know that you know that because all of us have paid such heavy dues to be lesbians. We have been on a path looking for the meaning of our own lives, the purpose of our own love. And I think that feeling that life owes you or you're entitled to fulfillment or happiness or comfort is a fucking trap. I can't say that enough. And corporate capitalism loves to sell you on that. I'm not saying you need to be a martyr. But I'm suggesting that if you reroute so that the central thing you are looking for is meaning in your day, in your minute, in your life, in your conversation with somebody, in your relationship with your partner, you are not looking for fulfillment, happiness. You're looking for meaning. I'm preaching, sisters. I'm an incest survivor, and my relationships are complicated. My history has been a nightmare. Aren't you glad you weren't my partner? I'm getting there now. I'm getting there now. And my sexuality's been complicated. And when I was unable to have orgasms, or when it was complicated, it was always rich with meaning. And I look back at my failure to appreciate that and my partner's failures to appreciate that. And I think of the lost opportunity for intimacy. Because we all know sex can be the least intimate thing on this fucking planet. That's right, because it's trust. Trust is intimacy. Use that word instead of intimacy and you can get somewhere. That's a much better routing of what's going on. Where am I? When I'm off on my sexuality, I'm off text so bad. Where am I? Yes. Get away from comfort, fulfillment, and happiness and move towards meaning and purpose. Engaging. Sister Bernice Reagan Johnson said something about coalition one time. And I'm sure that she was speaking as a black woman about coalition with white women when she said this. I'm not sure, but I think. She said, if you aren't so uncomfortable you don't think you can stand it, you're not doing coalition. Did that make her quit? It's too hard for me to read right now. I get to that later. But anyway, Sister Johnson did back off coalition because she was so uncomfortable. She didn't think she could stand it. She shared that little piece of wisdom. That's a deal. That's coalition. That's what it is. She was aware that it wasn't about being comfortable, because I'm sure if it was, she would have told all her white sisters to go to hell. Being uncomfortable is not a sin. It can sometimes mean that your web is holding fast. You're fully synapsing. I don't like this, but for the greater good, I'm doing it. And this is the same thing with envy. Envy sometimes means that we know We know we're deserving of something and we're not getting it. I watch these male playwrights write some piece of shit they wrote yesterday, and I've got a play I spent 2.5 years on, and I can't get mine produced, and theirs wins some fucking Obie or something, and I'm green with envy. And then I stop and I have to remember what they're writing about, who they're writing for, why they're getting produced, why I'm not, why I chose what I do, whose story I'm telling, why it's censored. I have to go through that whole process when I get that envy attack, and it makes me stronger, it makes my writing better. Envy is not a bad thing, sisters. Jealousy is nasty, but envy it just means you're thinking. You're noticing. You're noticing that men are getting stuff that you're not. That people who are white are getting stuff that you're not. You're noticing that able-bodied people are getting stuff that you're not. It means you're synapsing. Don't be afraid of envy, and it can make you change. It can make you change internally or go out and change the world around you. It's a tremendous motivator. Being uncomfortable, sisters, I'm telling you, being uncomfortable is incredible powerhouse of energy. If you're medicating yourself to just because, you're trying to be comfortable, and that's not to dismiss some of the real disabilities that we need to medicate for, but I think there's a whole lot of medicating going on around just discomfort. And what's needed is perhaps a little more radical synapsing, maybe some more community. And courage is not this thing. Viktor Frankl also spoke about courage. And what he said about it, that it's not so much a quality in and of itself as it is the realization that something is more important than your fear. And that's why when we lesbians come together, we can remind each other of that. You don't need a bucket of courage to speak up or to speak out. You just need to be reminded of what is really important, more important than your fear. All right. So anyway, I think I'm done with envy, and all right, now we're on to gluttony. Gluttony, we gotta kind of look at that and see what's really happening. And what is really happening is the patriarchal men and patriarchal institutions are trying to shame women about our appetites. And an appetite is defined as a natural desire. They don't want us to have natural desires because they can't sell us shit. They want us to have unnatural ones so they can colonize us and turn us into consumers. Shaming women about our appetites. That is a pretty universal thing going on all the time. And if there's one thing that the Lesbian Tent Revival preaches, it's not enough to affirm the truth. It's not enough to affirm the truth. You have to know your enemies. Now, in the Tent Revival, sometimes I just say the devil as a kind of shorthand, but I think we know what I'm talking about. You have to be able to know you have an enemy. Somebody is doing this to us.
That's right.
You have to not be afraid to say that.
Yeah.
You have to know what's coming between you and your truth that you're trying to affirm. And it's lovely how the New Age movement wants women to affirm this and that, and I'm beautiful just the way I am, and blah, blah, blah. But if you don't do that other piece, we just name the shit, name the enemy. If you don't do that, if you don't confront that propaganda and name the agents, you're never going to get anywhere. And St. Judy Free Spirit helps us out. She wrote this amazing Fat Liberation Manifesto. And I'm going to take a minute to read it because it's amazing. I want you to just hear the synapses crackling in this. These are the words of a fat woman. We single out as our special enemies. She wasn't afraid to say that. The so-called reducing industries. These include diet clubs, reducing salons, fat farms, diet doctors, diet books, diet foods and food supplements, surgical procedures, appetite suppressants, drugs and gadgetry such as wraps and reducing machines. We demand they take responsibility for their false claims, acknowledge their products are harmful to the public health, and publish long-term studies proving any statistical efficacy to their products. We make this demand knowing that over 99% of all weight loss programs, when evaluated over a 5-year period, fail utterly. Also knowing the extreme proven harmfulness of frequent large changes in weight. We repudiate the mystified science which falsely claims that we are unfit. It has both caused and upheld discrimination against us in collusion with the financial interests of insurance companies, the fashion and garment industries, reducing industries, the food and drug industries, and the medical and psychiatric establishment. St. Judy Free Spirit, boo! And I'm going to quote another fat warrior. This is Sister Ilana Dykewoman. And she's the person who educated me on this, because I didn't have a very good piece on gluttony in my original sermon. And we have to school each other, sisters. Was that comfortable for me? Do I like other women telling me I'm wrong and I need to fix something? But I did that. Because you know what, I was wrong and I did need to fix something, and I really appreciate she had the courage to confront me, because we are scary people. She said it's not about how we look, but how we feel free to feed ourselves at any size, with food, with art, with vision, with movement, with sexuality, with love, to indulge any desire until we're satiated. To indulge any desire until we're satiated. What woman gets that message? The rapacious depletion of the world's resources, the ignorance about food justice, these have nothing to do with women's appetites.
That's right.
Yeah, so she also pointed out something else. She referred to dieting as, quote, a contemporary American form of foot binding, end quote. She says it's something that mothers do to daughters with the specific intent of class mobility, to make their daughters more pleasing to men or mobile in the job market. We consider foot binding abusive and something that happens in other cultures, but we don't recognize that almost all hierarchical, patriarchal cultures have a mechanism through which mothers seek to physically alter daughters' bodies in order to gain power for both their daughters and themselves by capitulating to whatever the current male standard is.
Yeah.